So you are meant to follow a scholar because the scholars have knowledge. They're the people of knowledge. Let's continue. The ulama, the people of knowledge. So related words, alim, faqih, ulama. Ulama, the term denoting scholars of almost all disciplines, although more specifically, scholars of the religious sciences. They're regarded as the guardians, the transmitters, and the interpreters of religious knowledge and of Islamic doctrine and law, embracing those who fulfill religious functions in the community that require a certain level of expertise or knowledge in religious and judicial issues. The alim is often seen as opposed to the adib, he of profane knowledge, right? So versus profane knowledge, right? So understand now this is taken out of the Encyclopedia of Islam, links in the description. Okay, let me continue. Now, the very first opening index of the Reliance of the Traveller says that chapter A is sacred knowledge, and then why you have to follow the people of knowledge, right? Then they talk about the knowledge of good and bad. Why? Because morality in Islam is based upon knowledge of the Sharia, not your feelings. It says you have to know, you have to ask the scholars, and they will give you the knowledge. Don't forget the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Okay, Allah is the name. Allah just means the God, Smiler. I mean, it's not an actual name. Yes, it's become His name, but Allah just means the God. It's a descriptor, right? Allah is the term. That may be, but then we'll have to look at it. I mean, because if you look at some of I've looked at Dan Gibson's work, and I mean, he speaks of Baal Shaman, and that's he's got some very, very compelling information there. Right, moving on though, science. Let's look at science. Ilm, alim, faqih, ulama. Now, within the Encyclopedia of Islam, religion in Islam is the same as mysticism and mystics. Mystics, well, these guys do occult magic rituals, right? Jurist, faqih, okay? Ulama, faqih. It denotes anyone possessing knowledge. So a faqih possesses knowledge, fiqh of a thing, okay? Which is synonymous with alim and ulama. And again, ulama, remember, people of knowledge. Let's look at ulama, plural of alim, okay? Active participle of alima, to know what? To have the knowledge, right? And however, the term refers more specifically to the scholars of the religious sciences. Now that's interesting, religious sciences. Let's take a look at this word sciences for a moment through the lens of the Bible. So this is Gnosticism, Jesus' special knowledge. Now some Gnostics texts claim that Jesus taught that the world was a prison created by an evil God. That would be in the first apocalypse of James, right? Then the world is guarded by evil archons who require a secret password. Okay? Secret knowledge.
The password is password.
Now, Paul warns Timothy in 1 Timothy 6, verses 20 to 21. Paul warns Timothy about Gnosticism when he says, "O Timothy, guard what is committed to your trust, avoiding the profane and the idle babblings and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge, the gnosis, by professing it, some have strayed concerning the faith." So, again, he's writing about the church, the early church, which has gone awry, right, gone astray, and they are professing secret knowledge, Gnosticism. And he's saying, no, this is false knowledge. Now, let's have a look at other translations of 1 Timothy. Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so-called false science, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Islam makes a huge deal of it. Sacred science, religious science, science of hadith, science of this, science of that. When they speak of, and we'll talk more, but it's constantly about science, and the Bible warns about Islamic science. AT?
Can you go back like 2 slides for me? I was reading through it, and it took me a minute to like fully grasp this one right here. Yeah. So the ulama. So you were saying that the scholars are. You said earlier that the scholars are as far above the
The lay
normal
Muslim.
people as Muhammad is above the least amount of people, right? So basically, you're saying that the scholars are the highest echelon possible, the highest authorities when it comes to understanding and interpreting the religion of Islam. Is that
There are
correct?
levels within the scholars, I will get to that, but yes, the
Okay.
Sufis are higher than the normal mujtahids, because the Sufis have
So
not only mastered the Sharia, they've also mastered the Hakika, the spiritual understanding of Islam.
Gotcha. So the lay Muslim, the the internet, the jihadi Muslim that we interact with for the most part, when we show them, perhaps embarrassing hadith or an embarrassing rulings from Sharia manuals and what the ulama have stated, and they disagree with them, essentially they are kicked out of Islam. I mean, like how can a normal person sit there and say that they know more than the ulama when Muhammad himself said that they're
Yeah.
above basically even him.
Look, unfortunately, remember it is obligatory. It is mandatory for Muslims to lie to you in circumvention of you, and they just winning at all costs is really what they're about. It's got nothing to do with knowledge. You are wrong. You
Yeah.
are evil by default.